Eclipse Games, podcast where we bring you the latest in gaming news, indie reviews, and everything else under the sun. My name is Kendall, and I'm here with my co-host,
Tony, aka the bodyguard.
Okay, respect
Keeping it
that.
simple. Keeping it
Yep, I
simple.
respect the simplicity. That's a smooth one. Yes, sir.
It's we my grandmother died 14 years ago, and that was her nickname for me. So I got to get her in the show somehow. So that's how I'm doing it.
Absolutely, rest in peace. Yes, sir. But we're gonna keep the episode kind of simple too. Just kind of touch on things that are relevant in gaming right now because we had two very similar events happen recently as far as DLC for very popular games, and that's kind of what we want to theme the episode on. Two very different approaches, I would say, to DLC. So kind of gives us a big broad spectrum of conversation. If you guys remember during the Game Awards, then that was the God of War DLC, Valhalla. It dropped randomly. It is free. It's out now. It's a roguelite mode where you kind of just go through as Kratos and venture through
Get some
Valhalla.
shit done.
Yeah. I don't want to say too much before we start saying stuff. So we'll talk all about that because we've both been playing it. And I'll tell you, we got a lot to talk about. But we also kind of want to touch on The Last of Us and kind of what's going on there. They canceled their recent, multiplayer mode that they were supposed to be making, and they also have a roguelite mode coming out. So it gives us a good reason to kind of compare the two games, talk about them both, and discuss what the industry is doing as far as DLC right now, because it's kind of interesting. But before we jump over there, we have to start with Valhalla. Tony, you were the one that urged me to stop what the fuck I was playing. Like, I was trying to get you on the finals. The finals was also pretty fire, y'all, if y'all haven't tried it. But this nigga said, fuck the finals, and told me to jump on God of War. And I did, and I was like, bro, we got to talk about this. I'm going to let you start. So what have you, what are your thoughts?
All right, so
spoiler free, by the way.
Yes, very spoiler free. As spoiler free as we can keep it.
Absolutely.
So I did play the finals for like 5 minutes before we even texted about it, and I enjoyed it. But I was really only playing the shit to like blow some time until Valhalla dropped.
Yeah.
And when I started it, like when I texted you, I told, because you're not lying verbatim. I said, "Yo, fuck that game, get on this." I think about an hour. I was about an hour in, so there were some things going on with fire that had happened at that point. And that's the moment where I went, "Oh no, nah, you need to stop everything you doing."
Yeah.
Because I had said the last episode, I was 100% sure that this actually was story DLC and that they were like kind of underselling it.
Right.
I was right.
Absolutely.
There's another thing I was right about, but we're not going to get into that.
Yeah.
But the way the game, I mean, it's AAA Hades. Like, that's the best way I can describe it.
Man,
it is.
When you said that to me, I was like, man, don't gas my head up. That's a crazy description. Look. And then I tried it, and I'm just like, yes.
And it's not even like, it's not about the Greek shit. It's the style of play. It is Hades in every way in a expensive budget, high budget package.
Yeah.
And to me, like, they're at least my favorite three versions of a roguelite are: you can go the Vampire Survivors route, where you pick a weapon, you level up that weapon, and you get other weapons to add to it, and you're building your shit up.
Right.
You can go the Dead Cells route, where you can replace weapons in your run, depending on what you happen to be doing, where you're going, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could go the Hades / God of War route, where it's you have a weapon. This is your weapon. We will give you powers, but your weapon is your fucking weapon.
You're just going to stack on top of everything that you're getting on that weapon. Yep.
Right. And in this case, it's a shield and your rage meter, which is a very interesting way to go about it, because obviously you can switch between axe, blades, and Draupnir spear. So there wasn't really anything they could take away from you in that regard. What that game did as far as gameplay, because I remember like the gap between God of War 2018 and Ragnarok. Mm-hmm. I tried to pick up God of War right before Ragnarok to get ready, and I was flailing around like, shit, I really forgot how to play this motherfucking game.
Same.
Like, I have lost it.
Yep.
But when I went to pick up Valhalla, I jumped right. It took me 10 minutes to get that rhythm back.
Yeah.
And It's because it doesn't force you into familiarity. It's almost like it makes you relearn how to play the game. Because I was using shit that I was using runics and shit I had never used
Right.
in the original playthrough. But it
100%.
forces you to get familiar with it. I was using shields and shit. I did that the small shield with the really small parry window.
Yeah.
Never used that shit.
Made a point not to type,
Dog. And my parry game is tight.
Same.
But I just didn't like the way, like I didn't like the counter attack on it.
Right.
So I never used it.
Yeah.
But having to like use that because it gives you extra rewards, I'm like, well, I ain't about to short myself on this run. I'm gonna have to get a shot.
Exactly.
Man, look, I was putting in work, but I had basically learned how to play the game from scratch and then got that rhythm back so fast that I was going back to the Guardian Shield and I was lighting shit up. I was walking through runs.
Man,
and
yes.
That is the part of it that I equate to Hades. Is with Hades, it was okay, I got my ass beat this first run. The second run, now I got it. It clicked.
Right.
Like the second it clicked, it was over for everybody and everything in any arena.
Exactly. And for me, like it was the same type of vibe, exactly the opposite. I'm on the rage meter. Like for me, anytime I get the one where you get to like refill your health, I'm like, oh yeah, it's over. Like that gave me a heal. Like I'm about to run through this shit. But you're absolutely right. Like that variety that's already present in the game that you might not have appreciated, it really does pull you in. It's funny because we had such parallel experiences. When Ragnarok was about to come out, I decided not to go back and play God of War 2018 because I was like, I don't want to burn myself out on that type of gameplay. Because, gameplay wise, God of War is amazing. Like, it's always been fun. Like, and the older games is kind of what they leaned on. But I was here for the story, and I didn't want to kind of just like trudge through the game. I would mess around and try to platinum it, knowing me. But this game shows me, Valhalla specifically shows me that God of War has some of the best gameplay. Like, this is some of my favorite gameplay ever. And I wouldn't have even really given it the appreciation that it deserved. Cause I was the same way. I jumped back in like, man, I'm gonna forget everything. And I'm just kind of flowing with it. Like you do forget some things, like you have to relearn, what buttons do what. There's a system there and it's pretty unique. But once you get to it, like you said, it's flowing. The one thing I want to bring up is when you said the different styles of gameplay, and one of them is replacing your weapons. The game I want to bring up on that point is actually Returnal, because I think this game actually learned a lot from Returnal as well. Like Returnal was the it's the AAA PS5, roguelite, where you going through, you're replacing your gun, getting different types of guns and better guns. And this game does go more the Hades route with the gameplay, but presentation wise, they kind of yeah, you can see that they learned a lot from their presentation is incredible in Returnal. It's one of the craziest roguelites I've experienced, and I think we should take a moment to appreciate how they probably changed the game with that. Like Returnal showed you how to do it when it wasn't 2D or indie or those vibes. So
yeah,
I'm gonna throw it there for sure.
So the best part about the combat for me in God of War, at least this version of it, is that, and I think I said this to you like when we were both playing Ragnarok at the same time. It plays like a fighting game. Like it's very, very combo heavy. Because for a period, like the early period while I was still kind of getting everything to click, I was sticking with the axe and just doing work with that. Once the shit clicked, and I remembered back when I was playing like the Valkyrie Queen and shit, I'm like, oh no, I was switching between these things like on the fly, mid attack. Yep. Like, because you could cancel.
Yeah,
you could cancel, you could switch out. So I was remembering that shit, and I would hit the axe combo, and then I would flip to the spear, crack them a couple times, and then flip back to the blades, hit my runic on that, flip back to the axe, hit the runic on it. Like I was remembering all that shit in real time, and it made me remember, like, it doesn't really matter how tough this fight is. If I get into a good enough rhythm, it's over.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what had me doing that? There's like a runic or a perk that you can get where you get a Bifrost storm when you switch through and use a different runic with each weapon, like in a certain amount of time. If you do it like back to back,
I don't think I got that one.
Oh man, I was fucking shit up in the actual like base game with that shit. Like that's how I beat all those fucking kings and whatnot. Like that
that was brute force for me. We just about to line up and make it happen.
Man, listen, when I fought the three together, it was like a flow to it where I'm like, okay, I'm starting off, I'm gonna do this one, this one, this one. That's gonna give me the storm. Then I'm gonna summon my, you know what I mean? Like that flow is crazy, and you don't actually think about it until you stop and think about it, you know. But that shit is actually pretty remarkable, and it's fun
Yeah.
as hell. It's just a pure for a PlayStation game that's so narrative focused. You know how we like to talk about PlayStation games being damn near walking simulators. It's very interesting to see God of War and The Last of Us, the two biggest PlayStation exclusive games, come out with modes that are specifically about gameplay. Like that's really, really to stand on what they built and just say we got good enough gameplay that you can play this on loop and keep coming back to the game. Like not to bring up the Call of Duty beef that they had with the Christopher Judge and everything. That was so minor and silly,
Yeah.
but
And he wasn't
one of
wrong.
yeah, and they one of the devs threw a little fun shot back. They weren't trying to be aggressive about it, I don't think, but they said that, imagine not having like replay value, like retainability or something along those lines. And then a week later it did. Like, you know what I mean? Like God of War now has a reason to put in like hundreds of hours straight
That's
up.
the weird thing. Like saying Call of Duty has replay, but like it's all in multiplayer modes. That doesn't
Yeah.
count.
But you
Does
know
it
what's
count?
interesting, man? A lot of people don't like this roguelite trend, throwing roguelites in the AAA games. I think it just replaced the throwing multiplayer modes in. I think it's like this.
I'm fine with that. And
Me
the
too.
reason I'm fine with that is because there's a different level, there's a different type of skill. I won't say different level of skill. There's a different type of skill involved with playing roguelike games as opposed to the base game.
Right.
Because in the base game, you are obsessed with the story. You are playing point A to point B. When you're getting a roguelite, it's about how well did you master the actual mechanics of the gameplay.
Yeah.
And then it becomes an entirely different game.
How long can you maintain this actual, gameplay loop that you can master in bits and pieces and get through you get through the boss, you can heal. But what if you don't? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? How long can
Because I
you
mean,
keep
you
going?
can outside of the forced story moments of God of War, you could play Ragnarok all the way through with the axe.
Yeah.
Never have to switch to anything else.
Right. Right. Like, and it's
But it helps a lot if you do it in Valhalla. If you get some switching going, it will
absolutely.
improve your experience drastically.
And sometimes it
But
is actually necessary. Like, you can't actually do that because of the enemies that make you switch to like break down their shield or whatever. That's the one.
right,
That's the
yeah, you're right.
one.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that
But
those enemies.
so, but that just speaks to the strength of gameplay. Like they put gameplay moments in there to make you switch around and get used to it. Like, Valhalla actually adds even more of that to where some enemies will start to siphon your rage meter and they'll have
And them
that
niggas
same
is
shit.
annoying.
Oh my God, they run basically from you and like attack you. You got multiple other people attacking you, but if you let enough time pass and they're still linked to you, it's just going to take a big ass chunk of it, and I think it hurts you as well.
Yep.
And man, they are very annoying. You always have to, break their shield with a specific weapon and have to like figure out which weapon based on what the meter looks like. And it just kind of builds on what they already had there. That was like, yeah, switch around your weapons, try out some stuff. We got a lot of systems here and a lot of different fucking attacks that you can learn to do and master. It's
Now, the
amazing.
one thing I will say is I'm not sure how well Last of Us is going to work as a roguelike.
Man.
I
Yeah.
don't know because
I,
so much of the strength of the gameplay was in the stealth systems.
yeah, that's true. That is true. But I think that the gameplay, you've gotten caught and been in that firefight, you know what I mean? And that's a fun
I
time,
mean, yeah. It's enjoyable, but like
They,
the ideal thing for you in those scenarios is stealth. Like they're pushing you towards stealth.
they are.
So I'm
They are.
interested in how they're going to pull back from that
And
and
honestly,
make you more aggressive.
it could be stealthy. Like, you could be plopped into a room. Like I would take that all day. And you just a bunch of different enclosed spaces that you gotta work your way through in whatever way you choose to. Like maybe you can, use the environment to your advantage and things like that. I would definitely prefer that. But it's interesting, right? The fact that this works so well, it's free. It dropped before The Last of Us. So now we have to contemplate how we feel about like The Last of
Can we, hold on, because we need to before we go over there, because you just brought that free,
Yeah. Yeah.
free.
It's
They
crazy.
gave us a big bucket of Walter White meth for free.
And let me say, since we're coming back to God of War for a moment, we didn't touch on the story stuff much. I don't want to spoil too much
There's
of
not.
it.
I can't talk. No, you guys
Yeah.
just go play it.
Yeah.
Just there's
Yeah.
nothing I want to say about it at all.
Except that there's a lot of it. Like there's story stuff. Like, you know what
Oh,
I mean?
it is story
So,
DLC. It
yeah.
is.
Yeah. So with that being said, like it's really weird. Like, I mean, on the one hand, I guess I understand wanting to show people, hey, adding a roguelite mode into a game you already love, like a triple A game, like a big PlayStation marquee title, is worthwhile and you'll actually love this experience. So now that I know that for sure, just off of a free product, you give them a little taste for free, they come back for the $10 PS5 upgrade, right? That's the
Yeah,
idea.
see, that's the thing. It's $10. Like if it was like
Yeah,
40, I'd have some questions.
right,
But ten
right. It's not
bucks,
a
it's like,
it's not like they put out a standalone game and now have to continue making content for it.
right,
Focus all their stuff on the studio there and make their single player game suffer. They would never do that, clearly.
right.
So
Never. They will
ever.
cancel a game before they do that.
They would absolutely cancel a game before they do that, unfortunately. Which let's talk about it. It was kind of the right call. And I feel
It's
like it ties
100% the
into
right call.
but it's like a weird thing and it ties into the conversation here, right? Like this game started off as the DLC for The Last of Us, or at least one part of it. Who knows if they already have the roguelike mode planned as well? But this multiplayer mode was going to be part of Last of Us Part 2. They canceled it, spun it off, and blossomed the project into something much larger. And it became kind of something that grew out of control, I feel like. It wasn't from the way that their press statement reads, if you want to go check it out, you can find it on their Twitter page. It doesn't sound like they couldn't figure it out. It sounds like it was too good. Like they were like, yeah, if we do this, we're gonna be
You have to commit
shifting
to it.
we shift our focus over here. We're gonna be making content for that for years, and we're gonna have to just dedicate our whole studio to it. And we don't want our single player games, which is our strength, to suffer for that. And I respect the choice. It's just that like there was an original vision there that was a lot smaller and more contained. And it's rough to hear that they canceled that to do this and then canceled this because it wasn't that. So
But I see what I think it is that Jim Ryan was the one really pushing for like the live service component of
mm,
things.
yeah,
And as long as he was there, that game was getting made.
yeah,
And that was the thing that they made a point to say they didn't want this to turn into a live service game that they had to commit to because
yeah.
that's what it was going to be. Because everybody, ever since that announcement dropped, well, it didn't have to be that. It could have just been no, it had to be that because that's the direction PlayStation was going.
It had to be that at
They
the
were,
time, and
yeah,
now
that's what
maybe
I'm,
it doesn't.
yeah.
But yeah, I get it.
Now it doesn't, so they could
Yeah,
back out and go, look, we don't want to make it like this. Let's just drop, this thing. This is a self-contained DLC here that we have, and it's good. People are going to enjoy it, and then we can move on to the single player shit that's going, be great and make us some money. But as long as Jim Ryan was there, they were going to continue to work on that, and it was going to turn into that. Him leaving, I think, kind of saved him in that regard.
hopefully, because treating that like it was just like an inevitability at that time. I mean, it's the direction they chose to go in, but it didn't sound like they were forcing. I mean, I think they explicitly said they weren't going to force studios to do that. Like
I mean, yeah, they of
so.
course they're gonna say that. The
But that's
climate of the gaming industry, they couldn't even intimate that they might force people to do so.
but doing it on the low is still gonna fuck your whole business up, just like doing it out loud would. Like that's not.
Yeah,
It's not
but
the
doing it on the
morals.
low, you can try and spin it.
Sure, but it's not the moral standing I'm even worried about here. It's the fact that it's a terrible idea. Like the
Yeah,
fact that
it's a horrible
yeah,
fucking idea to do
and
it
if
like
that's
that.
if that's what was happening, like that's I mean, with The Last of Us of all things, it's crazy. Like I guess if you already had a
That's
vision for a single player game, then
that's that
it makes
greed,
sense.
man. Especially with the way
Yeah.
the show popped off, like they started seeing dollar signs.
Like
That's
man,
that's just how that should go.
imagine if you could just drop a multiplayer Last of Us game. Like, even if it was the standalone game that they wanted to make at the end. Just drop it. You don't have to have continuous content for it. Like there's content in it. You know what I mean? Like what is there any room for that anymore when it comes to multiplayer shit? Because
And
I
see,
think
that's
the
the thing.
only
The
time you get
battle
that
royale
is
genre is just took over.
yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you might say this multiplayer or fighting games are kind of like that, where they might add characters and whatnot, but for the most part, you get a solid project out of the gate that's like multiplayer focused.
Because there's no other at least to me, other than a beat 'em up, there's no other direction to go with the fighting game.
Right, right. But I mean, shit, you can make a multiplayer game with nothing else to it. Like if it's a factions, like there's nothing else there except multiplayer. Even if
I
there's
just think
like
we're
a Left 4 Dead style story there, but it's all multiplayer. You know what I mean? Like so
I
say
think we're
that
just out
it
of that era, man.
yeah, but
I think
that, I
we're
mean
just
so that's what I mean is I guess when there's not room for that anymore. Okay, okay.
nah, we're just out of that era where like that standalone multiplayer experience where it's really self-contained and it's just this forever. They just don't you can't do it no more. You can't I mean you can, but it's just there's no room for it.
I would have absolutely taken a Left 4 Dead Last of Us, you know? Like I
Hell
would
yeah.
have that I think there's room for that. I think that there's a space for that in this industry still. And I just think we don't try it because we're too busy muddying the waters. Like imagine Redfall if it wasn't trying to be that, you know, like if it was just a arcane game that was multiplayer. I
Well,
don't
I
know.
still think some people had too many hands in the pot on that one.
Yeah, there's a lot of things
That
there, but I'm just saying, like, that was a bad example. But imagine a game like that from a great studio that you know makes great games, just, you know, without having all that going on, like all those hands in the pile, all those ideas there, trying to force it to be monetized and all this stuff. But you know, we can sing this song all day. I guess it's gonna be what it is. We are getting some DLC for Last of Us. It is no return. We kind of
it
talked
is ten
about.
bucks.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you get an upgraded version of Last of Us Part 2 along with that. It's starting to feel like the side part of that shit.
Yeah,
But
no, no, that, and I think that's kind of the point.
yeah.
Almost was like we want you to pay for this new shit that we put onto it. So here's the remastered version of the original game too.
And then they can also bump it up to PS5. You know, you start selling Last of Us PS5 copies, basically.
Yeah,
That's important as well. They've been waiting for a reason to do that or an excuse to be able to do that. Shit, honestly, this feels more justified than Last of Us Part 1. Like I
oddly enough, yeah.
it is what it is, you know. But I feel like there's room for this. Like I was saying before, like this trend in the industry, there's other games that I think could follow that trend if they want to bring out more of their games. This is a good way to make your game singularly focused in the way that PlayStation seems to like that we, you know, we all kind of attach ourselves to and still bump up your playtime. Give people a reason to come back to your game. Like I don't see why there's anything wrong with it aside from the fact that it's a trend and people don't like trends. So
Basically. But there's
yeah,
such a thing as good trends. Like sometimes like Apex, what Apex Legends did was a good trend in the
right.
battle royale strike. Then everybody else just went haywire with it.
Yeah.
But
And
they went in the right direction.
you see the big sharks eat the little fish, you know what I mean? Like the ones that
Right.
know what they trying to do here. Like not to say that those other games didn't know what they were trying to accomplish, but Apex obviously had a singular focus. Games like that can really shift the genre, shift the whole, you know, medium a little bit. So I appreciate this moment. And I want to ask if there's any games that you think in particular could benefit or pull off something similar to Valhalla and No Return.
Bayonetta.
That is a really good one. That's a great one
That was
off rip.
that's just the first. That's just number one.
You know
A
what's
Bayonetta
funny?
roguelite would be fucking incredible.
We had very similar first choices, but very opposite directions. You went with the Devil May Cry spinoff Bayonetta. I went with the Devil May Cry spinoff Final Fantasy 16. But I'm gonna let you go first. Like Bayonetta actually is a fire choice.
I mean, just the way she played, like again, much like God of War, she kind of plays like a fighting game character. I mean, she's got the guns on her feet, she's got the guns in
Hmm.
her hands, she's got witch time, like all of this stuff you can, because it's especially when you get into like debuffs and burdens,
Yeah,
you get into that shit. Okay, so witch time only lasts 5 seconds, or you don't have witch time. It's all guns.
right,
It's all physical.
right.
Just like stuff like that, and you can the variety of enemies that's in the game. The scale of some of the enemies, like there is a lot you could do with that.
Yeah, it's already kind of built based on like hidden goals, you know.
Yeah.
So
So
I can
I
dig.
I, I think that would be a good one.
And it's funny that you say that about the fighting game thing, because as soon as you said that, I thought of Devil May Cry and like Bayonetta and was like, yeah, they remind me of Tekken. They reminds me of
Right,
this. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, I get that.
Um, Zelda, kind of an obvious one. I feel
Had
like
that one on my list too. It's hard to not. I know it's like
because yeah, it's just like I mean, it's dungeon crawling anyway, so you know.
literally go from a shrine instead of going to get your orb, go to another shrine. And there you go.
I mean,
Like
actually, you know what? No, you know what? Actually, I need to backpedal on that. They already did it.
I
Breath of
mean,
the Wild already did it.
but you gotta there's rules to this shit. Like you gotta lose some shit, lose your progress type, type vibes. There's things
I mean, you did.
you don't risk. You're not risking much dying in Zelda though. Like your progress saved
No, no,
everything
no,
you
no, no.
got.
No, I'm not talking. No, I'm talking about the Master Sword shit.
Oh, you know what? Yeah,
When you had to fully
yeah.
power up the Master Sword.
There's just no, there's like 3 checkpoints. That's it. But yeah, I
That's
can
it.
say that.
That's
Yeah,
nigga. That shit was tough.
it was.
It,
It
it's
was. And
it took me some fucking time to get through that, bro.
damn, that's actually crazy that they've already done it. But
Yeah, I just hit me.
I would take it though in a way where in true Zelda fashion, like I said, it would be more shrines. Like I would take like a series of shrines or like puzzle type challenges. That's like, pace one after the other. But I don't know if that works considering the randomly generated nature of roguelites. So
Yeah, no,
yeah.
no, I don't. Yeah, they're probably not.
There's a way you can flip that and make a concentrated game that's continuous like that, but it depends on how you want to do it.
I mean, Metroid would be a good one,
Metroid would be an excellent one.
and I
Yeah.
mean, in a lot of senses, it has elements of it just from the
Mhm.
standpoint of you start the game with your shit, lose your shit, and you got to get it back.
Yeah. Yeah. My roguelite
Um,
Metroidvania has always been like to me.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that would be a good one. Um, I this might be a fairly ridiculous one, but I'd like to see like a Crash Bandicoot one.
That's actually wow. I knew there was gonna be at least one where I was like, I would have never said that, but I'll take that shit actually. I'll take that.
A platforming roguelite would be because I mean he had at least passed the first one. He's got
Mm.
abilities,
Yeah.
and I think that they've done a really good job with enemy variety over the years.
Hmm.
And as far as giving you options to tackle certain enemies, because some of them you had to slide into, some of them you had to jump on top of and then body slam.
Right. They
There's
actually
something there. Like if it does feel
yeah.
like there's something there that you could actually make that work. Because I mean the whole cortex thing, like you're going up a tower anyway in a lot of these levels.
Right.
And I feel like there's something you can do there with the bosses and the different characters and the different abilities, and even get Wumpa Fruits involved where
Yeah.
they're kind of like a basic weapon where you're throwing them at people.
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad. Or like, I can see that being some type of currency that you losing or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Crash is it. That's definitely the left field choice, but it fits very, very well. Um, the gameplay is really tight, and I feel like platformers do not get that love. Like something like a Metroidvania, because my mind went to Hollow Knight after that. It's somewhere between Metroidvania and Souls like already. Like it's just not structured in that roguelite way
Right.
necessarily, but yeah, I could absolutely see that. Um, a couple I had on my list, like I said, Final Fantasy 16 came to mind for a lot of the same reasons as Bayonetta. Like the gameplay of that is just so much fucking fun. Like it's very tight. It's the type of game where you just kind of I picked it back up after not playing it for a few months because everything in the fucking world came out. Um, and I had to go back and beat it like, last week pretty much. And man, it all just kind of came back to me, and that game is fun, bro. Like that game is just a fun time. It's got that same sort of flow to it as a Devil May Cry, but I found it a little bit more intuitive to my gameplay style. Like I was never all that great at Devil May Cry games, even though I enjoy them. I feel like I flowed pretty well in Final Fantasy 16. Granted, it's not as deep. But I think you can add some modifiers and stuff like that to make it even deeper and give you some reasons to use certain things. There's actually already challenges in the game that are very similar to this. So putting that sequentially and like making it kind of like a goal that you have to reach definitely will work.
Yeah, that sounds solid.
Absolutely. Another one I had was now this was kind of the random one for me, but Resident Evil feels like it would work. Just kind of like
I can
venturing
see that.
through, yeah, like continuing through like this dark area, dank area, trying to get to phone rooms, just kind of going as far as you can. I don't know if they've done it already. I tried to look into it, but I didn't find anything that said that they had made a roguelike because that feels like it just fits to me. Like it might be something that already exists, but I think that would fit. Like I think that would be pretty. And we in a renaissance of Resident Evil games, so I would like to see
Thanks.
that. Definitely. Let me see. And then the last vague idea I had on my list was fighting games. Like just like I know that's crazy, but if you're trying to do this whole single player mode, like continue through like a bunch of challenges. I guess just like the tower idea, but you can kind of expand on that a little bit. This is better than like the little single player bullshit we've been getting.
Yeah,
You know,
that's true.
running around hub worlds and whatnot. I like the concept of that. That's the reason I started playing Tekken because my little ass was like, "Oh, I get to be Jin. That's awesome. You get to run around as Devil Jin and fuck shit up. That sounds dope."
Right.
But it was all right, you know.
Yeah, and that's basically where he came in.
Yeah,
It's cool.
yeah. It was okay. It was interesting because you don't get to do that with fighting game characters. That's about
Right.
as far as it goes. But yeah, I mean, I
I
think this subgenre has a lot of legs to it.
see. I think that would Prince of Persia work?
Yeah, and I've heard pretty good things about this new one. Like some people have gotten a chance to play it. I think, especially with this new one, it will work. Absolutely. And then it's
Because
already time
that's
based, right?
yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah. I guess the newer version. Because I'm also thinking like a mix of the older version with the newer version where you're
Mm,
it's way more platforming based than it is
yeah.
action based.
I mean, the old ones, yeah, the old ones. That's a good way to bring that back, like that style back. You're right. Yeah, absolutely. That's
Get on that MS-DOS 2 system and get pixel perfect on the edge of the ledge so you can make your jump.
listen,
Piss
man.
yourself off when you miss it.
That shit is a challenge for sure.
Shit is hell.
Um, One that just popped into my head actually was the modern Tomb Raider. That would be a pretty good like AAA roguelike mode type of game. Like they would lean more
Oh
on
yeah.
the survival side of it, but yeah, that shit would be pretty fire.
They was beating the shit out of Lara in the first one.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
she went through hell.
Man, they I don't know what it is about like a character just like completely just getting battered around, beating the fuck up, thrown off a mountain into a river. You see him go through the river, get stabbed in the gut, washing up on shore, getting up and just like you take control and you're like, all right, I'm gonna fight all 50 people now. I mean, I should be
Yeah.
dead, but it's
Should be dead. My eyes work so I can shoot everybody. All just everything's
facts.
good.
Fuck it. Why not? I love it, man. So honestly, I feel like we're in an interesting place. I don't want to wrap the episode up too soon. But we we kind of need more variety as far as DLC goes in games. I feel like we get a lot of samey stuff. We get a lot of cosmetic stuff. We get a lot of smaller modes or like, new game pluses and things like that. But and then, story DLC tends to be like a small chunk of unimportant content to me. I feel like a lot of DLC there should be a little bit more DLC that's based around gameplay. And I think this is a good way to do that. Especially if you're gonna be charging for it. Like if I'm coming back to the game, I don't want it to be because, you know, I don't know. I want it to feel substantial. I remember when DLC kind of first became a thing and it was very divisive. We kind of got used to it now. But I think that we are in a place where we can make it worth our while. Video games are big enough and good enough and like they play well enough that we're not just getting concepts out the way now. We got actually really, really solid games. And this is a great way, as we talked about with God of War, to show people just how good the gameplay in them are. So I'd like to see a little bit more of this type of effort. Like I want to see it put that effort put forth and the value being there, even for something that's cheap or free. So yeah.
I think because the main takeaway that I finished Valhalla last night.
Hmm.
That is to me one of the best AAA DLCs ever.
Absolutely.
Like top to bottom,
Yeah.
quality wise, gameplay wise, story wise, all of it. That is one of the best that has ever been put out.
100%.
And what you said is very true. We need more variety. We need some shit that's actually worth like reinvesting the time because the money, like we're going to spend the money on the game if it's good. It's about the time. Is it worth actually putting my time in, or are you giving me an hour's worth of gameplay slash story, but like 40 skins? I don't give a fuck about the skins. Like,
Exactly.
I don't care. The thing with
Exactly.
God of War's DLC was it was a true continuation of the story because you came out of Ragnarok going, well, what is Kratos going to do now?
Mhm.
Because now everything's opened back up. Him and Freya are trying to continue to repair the realms. Atreus is off doing his thing. And the dope thing is, and this isn't a spoiler. It's kind of a throwaway line, but it's also a very important line in the
Mm.
DLC. Is that Mimir actually says, "Hey man, I was worried about you. I mean, I'm glad we're back fighting because you was just sitting there doing nothing. I ain't it's
Yeah,
like I was kind of worried about you." And
right.
like that type of shit, that small ass line connects everything because now you know what Kratos was doing. That motherfucker was on his couch like cooking
Chilling.
up some potatoes
Yep.
like Thanos.
Yep. We
He's just
won't give
bored.
it straight up. We won't give you the context of my man's like semi-retirement, but it was
Right,
implied that
right.
he's
He was
semi-retired. Like,
yeah, he was bored.
yeah,
And to get to a point where he's going to Valhalla for this reason, and then he finds out why he's going, and like everything that he goes through with that, that is literally like, hey, you know what? I know we charged you like 70 for this other one. We kind of forgot this other part. That's what it
yeah,
felt like. Like, hey, here you go.
man.
My
And
bad, my bad. We forgot to put that on there.
like
Here
really,
you go.
really like this. And it's not that we like needed that. Like God of War Ragnarok was a huge game, but adding Valhalla just adds so much to it. It's crazy.
Yeah. And
It
it
just
didn't feel tacked on.
it
It like
feels
I said, it
natural.
literally felt like they went, we left it in the bag. My bad.
Yeah, it feels supernatural. Like it builds on everything that's already there. You know what I mean? It really is one of the top DLC packages I've ever experienced. And the fact that you do get like some of that Hades experience where you like talking to people as you go through your runs and whatnot. Like I never expected to see that in the God of War game. Well,
That was the other thing. Like the actual story and the dialogue was consistent
yeah,
all the way through. You were getting fed story the entire time.
yep,
The only time it stopped was just like in Ragnarok when you got into a fight. Other than that, everything was being explained to you as you were going, like why this is happening, all of
yeah,
that shit. And
exactly.
then you have to actually think about it. I mean, Ragnarok dropped what last year?
Yeah, like right
They
around.
had to re-record. They were not re-record. They had to record new lines for this shit.
Yeah, a lot
They
of them
had to
apparently.
do the motion capture. Like this was a completely built thing. Like they
Yep.
actually put time into making this as if they were making another 30-hour game.
Man, I was telling my cousin I would buy this. Like they could have charged me for
So
this.
if they
Straight
told
up.
me it was 25,
I would have had
if
it,
they told me on the back end it was 25, I might have gave it to them.
honestly.
Just just off just off appreciation alone. If they just came back and said, "Look, we kind of need, we need 25." I'd be like, "You know what? Y'all got it, man.
Man,
Y'all got
listen.
it."
You
Cuz
throw me a battle pass and keep putting shit in this, I'll buy the battle pass. I'm not gonna lie to you.
yeah, and I feel like playing it again, like more
Right. That's hot, man.
because like when I got done with it, like you finish any game, they give you that little dialogue box, you've completed blah blah blah. Now you can go back and do. And they were
No.
telling me like the point of me going back and playing, and I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, hold up, I might
It's
actually have to go back.
that's
And
man.
again, not telling y'all nothing. I'm just saying at the
Yeah.
end, they kind of like nudge you in that direction of that you might want to go back in there.
I've heard things like that from the developers, like that there's reasons to keep playing past like rolling credits.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely, man. Like, I listen, keep this coming. I'm not expecting everyone to match this level. Like, I don't expect anything story wise from Last of Us's DLC content, but
I
this
am.
is
I would prefer, and I'm saying I am like in an unfair sense. I am from the standpoint of I'm still mad at how Last of Us Part Two ended because it's like you did all of that bullshit just to let her go,
yeah.
like,
Listen, and again, that's
and then
very
now you
vague.
can't play guitar no more.
That's very,
You know what I'm saying?
wait. We're not going too deep into the spoilers. Maybe she lost her guitar, but yeah, I
Well, that's why I
I
say you
feel you.
can't play it. I didn't say why you couldn't play it.
Yeah, yeah. I feel you though. Like there's a lot of untold story there. I mean, hey, they could be saving it for part three, but I'm very interested to see how this all pans out. There is also cut content coming to that DLC drop, so it's not.
Develop a commentary,
Yeah,
which is
that's
gonna be weird, like
yeah,
mid
yeah.
game running into
That
it.
I've never experienced that, so I don't know how to
Because
how
like
to
the
feel.
train area, that would fuck me up. Like in the train area,
Yeah,
like I'm trying to get through and shit, and then I run
bruh.
into a text bubble, and niggas just start talking to me. I'm like, yo, you are fucking the immersion up, man.
Straight up, literally anywhere in that game, I feel like I'd be like, "Oh, okay, what's up, Neil Druckmann?" But I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I'm very interested in this. It is also fairly cheap and fairly substantial, so good shit.
Yeah, it's worth. I mean, like we're saying, we're harping on God of War being free, but The Last of Us is only $10.
Right,
And I
right,
mean, like we when you juxtapose that with what Rockstar did with the PS5 upgrade to GTA 5, which was $10 for like 3 months,
right.
all you was getting was upscaled shit. Like you wouldn't get no new shit.
You did get
You was just
first
getting ups.
person mode. I mean, there's differences. There's
But
differences.
yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I don't know the full extent of
first
the
person mode,
differences.
at least to me, personally, first person mode does not enhance the experience. It doesn't change the way the game plays to me.
I did first person mode, but I so
It's dope.
GTA.
It just don't change. Like it's still GTA.
Yeah, first person mode aside though, GTA and Rockstar are the type of like my cousin was just also telling me in that same conversation I mentioned earlier that there's things that he's just discovering about Red Dead Redemption 2. Like you can find like birds attacking fish, like
Oh
diving
yeah,
into the
there's a
water.
lot of yeah.
Like there's probably shit in GTA 5, PS5 that we don't even realize was upgraded. Like I would not be surprised by that. So
Yeah, I mean, I know they put the visual effort and the graphical effort. They be on like some Pixar shit. Like you
it's
remember
crazy.
that part in Finding Nemo where the blowfish blew up and then he went out of frame and they deflated it. But if you look in the background, did you notice like all the little plants in the tank actually moved when they
That's crazy.
deflated them? That's the type of detail Rockstar be putting in their shit.
And it makes you feel like, oh, okay, yeah, that's just physics. No, they animated that
No,
shit.
they
Like they did,
animated that shit.
they took the time to make sure that happened.
They
Like
said
I,
no, there's going to be air in here. These things need to move. That
yep,
like that's the type of shit Rockstar be on. So I don't doubt that they put like the time into the graphical fidelity, but gameplay wise, I'm like, okay. Now Last of Us being $10 and it's going to be $10 for good, hopefully.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but you're getting basically a brand new mode. You're getting an upscaled version of the original game. You're getting all this developer commentary. You're getting lost levels, which I didn't read too much into that. I don't know if are they finished or are they unfinished, like just giving us a look into what like they were actually doing.
I'm pretty sure. I think it's like finished and added into the as far as I know. I actually didn't look into it either now that you're mentioning it. But let me see if I can find that real quick.
Yeah, because that was like puzzling me because they would said lost levels and then they would show like a little bit of gameplay, and it looked unfinished, but I didn't know if that was just like a really dark area.
Yeah, it's okay. So I mean, hmm. No, actually, I don't want
Well,
to,
because
yeah,
it's
I don't want to
fine.
hold it.
Like it's fine either way.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
I'm cool with it because it gives you like a perspective on what exactly they were building in certain
Right,
areas that they might have
right.
had to cut.
And honestly, I'll
I
take
just wonder if like
because that's where
did
I
they
would put
actually
that.
rebuild shit?
That's where I'd put the cut there, the developer commentary if it was not rebuilt. But
Right.
I would love to see it included in the game as what it was originally intended. But that sounds like a lot. Like that's definitely like a
That's the
director's
problem.
cut. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And I guess the other thing is, how do you top the Rat King?
I mean, shit. It sound so. One thing I have heard is about Ellie going down there. So I'm interested in like what's going to happen. Like, yeah, there's some differences apparently. Like, so maybe there is like cut content that's added back into the game. You know?
That would be interesting because if Ellie, like, is it Ellie going down there instead of Abby?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's as well, like, or at a different point or something. I don't know if she's encountering the same things again. I'm trying to be as
Because
vague as
and
possible.
that's what I'm saying. Because if she's like that, then that has to be an escape situation, not a fight
Yeah,
situation.
yeah. It would have to be so, but that makes me very intrigued. Like that shows me that there's some content in here that's worth playing, even if you're not really interested in like unincluded content. You know,
I ain't gonna front. Escaping the Rat King sounds way more fun than fighting it.
it does. It
And
does.
I enjoyed the fight. I enjoyed the atmosphere
Me
of it.
too.
But the idea of like actually hiding from this thing and running from it sounds way more
Yep.
fun.
Put me in a stealth situation that turns into a movie, like mid me getting caught. I will play that absolutely, man. Well, we got two great DLC packs. We got a lot of games coming in 2024. We are starting to wrap up the year, man. I want to talk a little bit about that. We are going to have to start getting our game of the year conversation together, but that will be coming before the end of the year. Um, we have a
Actually,
few.
if we could time this right, it could come exactly on New Year's Day.
Yep, it actually can. We can make. that actually might be the wave because we are taking Christmas off. I'm gonna tell you that now. There probably won't be an episode next week, but
No,
yeah,
they definitely won't be. We're taking Christmas off.
yeah, yeah. There's no
there's
problem.
no 25th episode.
But yeah, nah, that sounds like the wave. That sounds like expect the game of the year episode on the first. So keep looking forward to that, man. We got to do something special this year. It's special, and it's our first one. Like, what a first year to do game of the year.
Yeah, this will be our first podcast slash video game of the year. Normally we do our Moonies on in print.
Yep, yep.
Um,
And since it's such an interesting year, and at the same time such an obvious one, I want to do something different, like something to switch it up, like maybe list format or something like that. We'll discuss more as we get to it. You'll know by the next episode. So I'm gonna let you guys pay stay tuned to everything that's coming. You know what I mean? Follow us on Twitter. Make sure you like and subscribe here on YouTube. Podcast services come out every Monday. We definitely want to get your feedback, so leave us a comment. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. We want to make this a show for you guys. So, but until then, I am Kendall. This is Tony, and keep gaming.